All right, Jesse on fire. Welcome back to the channel. So I'm going to do a little switcheroo here. I'm going to do a little mix up, like a format that I don't normally do, which is who are my top 5 favorite fighters? All right. I haven't done this in a while. And honestly, you want to know why I'm doing this? I'll tell you exactly why I'm doing this. Number one, I want to give a shout out to Submission Radio. Submission Radio, YouTube. Now, obviously, they're a much bigger channel than mine currently. But man, I got like dick deep watching their stuff yesterday. Like I've been consuming Mix Molly content like it's going out of style. I don't know, like if there were any videos that I had not seen, I've watched them all like in the last 2 days. And I watched a bunch of Submission Radio stuff. I watched this Chael Sonnen one and I watched the Colby Covington one. And it has officially changed my top 5 favorite guys. And I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I'm not going to say like who my number 1 is, number 2, but I'll just tell you who my top 5 guys are. Because I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I'm going to say it right now. Colby is in my top 5 now. Just straight up. Just bottom line. Colby is in my top 5. All right? And the reason for that is because I have now watched him evolve this character to a point where, like, there was something about the juxtaposition between the video that I did yesterday where I showed, him and Masvidal, like, when they were younger, and how, like, he's like a good kid. You could tell Colby's like a good kid. Masvidal's the one who was like the bad kid and they were best friends, and like Masvidal's the bad influence. Colby's like, trying to be like frugal with money, and he's like, it's like when he's drinking the champagne, you can tell he's like, man, this isn't something I do. I don't usually do things that are bad for my body, and like he has literally created this WWE character, and he sticks to the script so well. Like I'm in. Like I'm in, dude. I'm in. He said like they were asking him about BLM and he went all in on like they're Marxists, and like it's hilarious, man. Like he's hilarious. And I'm not talking about like, oh, I agree with his politics or I don't. It's totally irrelevant because it doesn't even matter. I will say this though. You guys notice that George Masvidal suddenly has a relationship with Donald Trump? You guys notice that? I mean, seems kind of weird if Colby and Trump have a relationship, because we know Colby and Trump have a relationship, and Colby and Masvidal hate each other, right? Like, so if they hate each other, how does Trump now have a relationship with Masvidal? Unless maybe Masvidal and Colby are best friends, maybe. And so that's how that happened, maybe, right? Because obviously Colby would let Trump know, because Trump understands publicity better than anyone on earth. Literally the king of publicity. So anyway, but yeah, Colby's in my top 5. I can't again, this is not like a anti-BLM thing or anything like that. It's just, he has gotten so good at this act. He's got nicknames for everybody. He just watched Trump and he was like, I'm just going to do that. And he does it. It's amazing, dude. Marty Fake Newsman, Journeyman George, he's never off. Like when the camera's on, he's on. I have so much respect for that, man. And he's winning his fights. He got his jaw broken and he fought for 2.5 more rounds. 2 more rounds, and fought like a boss. Like a boss. He's a savage, man. I'm rooting for him. I am rooting for Colby Covington. Although, guess who's next? George Masvidal. Okay. George Masvidal will continue to be in my top 5 guys, but there's no loyalty here with me because I think they're best friends and I think they're pulling one of the best scams on the public ever, which even more so bolsters them being in my top 5. That's what it is with Colby, okay? Because Jorge was already in my top 5. But watching that video of them, when they were younger, being best friends, reminded me so much of me and like my best friends from college. Like that was my life. Like that was my life. That was my life. Lived in like these small shitty apartments. We like our day would center around going to Whole Foods because we're prepping for like girls that are coming over that night. I loved that shit, man. Like I love it. Like honestly, like hurt my heart kind of to watch that. Like it really did. It was like, fuck, man. Because like you'll get older, you get a family. If you're lucky like me, you marry just the hottest girl on the face of the earth who, you've been together with since 2007, and she's still, to this day, 13 years later, just as hot as she was the day you met her, maybe hotter, actually definitely hotter. Certainly the same, right? She was the hottest girl you've ever seen the day that you met her, and 13 fucking years later, she's still the hottest girl you've ever seen. And like, not just like, oh, I love my wife, she's like the most beautiful girl ever to me. Like objectively, she's like the hottest girl ever. Okay? Like, there's no, like, I'm not like pumping her up because she's my wife. She's just objectively, literally one of the hottest girls in the history of the fucking world. So you can get lucky like that, you know, have some kids, and still, after 3 kids, the hottest girl ever. But nonetheless, you watch like Colby and Masvidal and you remember those days, and man, it's just like, there's a part of me that just rips my heart out. Honestly, like, ripped my heart out. Because like I went, that was my college life. Graduated college, lived with my best friend in San Diego for a couple years, and then met Gabrielle, and then we started dating, and then when she moved in, he got all bent out of shape and he moved out. Still my best friend though. But that was our life. That was our life, man. We go to Blockbuster. We just wander around Blockbuster, like looking for a movie. We used to go to Blockbuster every single night when we were in college. Every single night. Like, we'd just be like, what are we doing? And like in between school years, we would stay. I went to Chico State. You may know that from biggest party school in the country, according to Playboy, in 1993. And then again in the early 2000s when I was there. All right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, boy. It maintained that. It was number 1 in 93. So like when I was like in middle school, it was number 1 in the country. And so I was like, oh, that's where I'm going. That's where I'm going, motherfucker. My dad was like, I'm not paying for that. I was like, oh yeah. So that's where I went, and he paid. And then while I was there, it was number 2 in the country behind Arizona State. So anyway, but we stayed there in between school years over the summer. Like, I would just never come home. And there was nothing going on. Like, there's nothing going on. And so when like people would come visit us, they'd be like, why are you guys walking so slow? Because me and Mike, my best friend, we literally would just figure stuff out to do. We'd go like on a boat one day, and then we come home, then we go to Blockbuster, and we just had nothing to do. So we would move so slow. And again, the Masvidal Colby stuff, man, I was just watching them in Whole Foods. I was like, that's my life. That was our life. Like, them hitting on the girl that like when they're in the airport, that was my life. So Colby and Masvidal, definitely in my top 5. Okay. Now, Francis, obviously top 5, and he's going to be the heavyweight champion, and I'm going to be very, very excited for him. Conor McGregor will always be in my top 5. He'll probably be my number 1 if we're being honest. I'll never root against Conor. Never. No matter how many assault charges he has levied against him, or how many times he gets arrested, he's always going to be in my top 5. Always. Probably my number 1, if I'm being honest. Very much looking forward to the Dustin Poirier fight, which, by the way, speaking of Colby and Masvidal's best friends, Dustin Poirier was on the Teddy Atlas show, and that fight's happening, man. Like, that fight is happening. It's happening. And he was just saying that, like, all the fights for 2020 have headliners, so they're probably looking at January, but he wants to fight in 2020 as well. Him and Conor are like, they're eye to eye. I think this is going to be Conor's new MO, by the way, speaking of, my top 5 favorite fighters. But I think that Conor's new MO is going to be, for the most part, to be super respectful with guys that he in the buildup, because like his business is not just getting paid to fight. It's having a good, public image so that people buy Proper 12, and so there certainly is an aspect of him that's a combative, warrior. And when he fights Khabib or Justin Gaethje, that we'll see that side of him. Dustin Poirier, he's not going to talk shit. He's going to be super respectful. Then he's going to bury him. And people are going to go, oh, Conor really is that good. It's like, yeah, he is. So that's my top 4. Who's the last one? Cody Garbrandt is my number 5. So I will always root for Cody Garbrandt over everyone else when he's fighting, in those lower weight classes. So top, we got, Francis, sorry. Then we got round 170 and 155, Colby, Masvidal, Conor, and then we got Cody Garbrandt. Those are my top 5. I love these guys. And I don't really see a whole lot of similarities except that Conor, Colby... Actually, you know what? Everybody except Francis just reminds me of me and my friends, to be perfectly honest with you. Like, those are like guys that I'm like, oh, okay, like they're just like me and my friends. Conor, a little bit more self-destructive than the rest, but he reminds me of me, where the other guys remind me of my friends. So, okay, you know what? How about we make it into a top 10 so I can throw out some other guys? All right, because those are like my top 5 because I'm like passionately rooting for them. But now I want to do another, like, so now we'll go 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And these are guys whose games I respect just absolutely out of this world. Okay, so number 1 on that list is Khabib Nurmagomedov. God, that is so embarrassing. But Khabib is my number 1. Number 1 guy whose game I respect. Number 1. Number 2, Daniel Cormier. Number 3, Justin Gaethje. Number 4, Tony Ferguson. Number 5, John Jones. Yep. Yeah. Those guys. Yeah. Those guys. So there you go. There's my, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys who I respect, guys who I like watching fight. That's, Israel Adesanya too. Throw him in there, obviously. And Costa. I love watching Paulo Costa fight, even though he just got beat up. But yeah, so there you go. There's like my 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. But that's what we got. So subscribe to the channel, ring the bell. Peace.